What's up, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers? Welcome to the video feed for episode 52 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. I'm a little late getting in the studio today, and we'll talk about that. And I know we have a lot of fans across the pond there, so you probably know why I'm late getting into the studio. And we've got an action-packed show for you today. So that being said, let's just get into episode 52.
Who 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers. Welcome to episode 52 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And we've got a great show for you today. I mentioned at the top of the video feed I'm a little bit late getting into the studio for obvious reasons that we'll get into shortly. But we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, for episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. That's our official Facebook page. Go follow that page. Get updates on anything and everything that is Go Tell It to the Wall, including Common Sense Sundays, Sean O'Rourke Live, all that good stuff. Again, facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. Of course, our YouTube channel. Head on over to YouTube, search Go Tell It to the Wall, subscribe to our channel. That's where you're going to find all of our video feeds posted after the fact. Previously, what were our live feeds, as well as our beer reviews, Mental Health Monday playlists, parenting playlists, all that great stuff right there on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Go Tell It to the Wall. Easy to find. Just type Go Tell It to the Wall. You're going to see my lovely face right there on the YouTube channel, or my not so lovely face, depending on your opinion. Either way, you should be subscribing. And, of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean. That's right, at SoCalSean on the Instagram. Follow me on there. Good chance I'll follow you back unless you're just trying to spam me with a bunch of other stuff. A lot of those requests coming through lately. It's like, all right, we realize everybody's got crazy stuff they want to put out there, but I don't necessarily need a lot of that in my life. But either way, at SoCalSean right there on Instagram. And, of course, most importantly would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That is your one-stop shop for anything and everything that is Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, Go Tell It to the Brewery, Sean O'Rourke Live. Just make sure you have it bookmarked. It's a good website to bookmark. You know, you got all kinds of other websites bookmarked anyway. And it's actually going to link you to all of those platforms that I just mentioned, as well as show you links to our Patreon campaign, Patreon page, and our merch website. So both those, if you want to support us financially, you can do it in either one of those avenues right there. Patreon is you get some good benefits by becoming a patron. And, of course, with the merch site, you get some awesome Common Sense merch right there in your mailbox. So make sure you're checking those out as well. I know I promised last week there was a new logo coming this week. The new logo is still done. It's just been a crazy week. I'm going to get into some of why it's been a crazy week just for me personally. Like, nothing bad. Just too many things going on, and I'm moving like a mile a minute, have been for like the past week. And it's been a challenge to get some stuff out there. So that is still coming. Should be out there this week. I'm going to promise it, but please don't stop listening if you don't see the logo over the next week, because I'm still in the middle of a bunch of other stuff, dealing with like my own just stuff around. It's crazy stuff around the house and everything. Get into some of that with parenting, and we may have a possible schedule conflict for the next episode, which would be next weekend, next Sunday. Not sure yet. I'm trying to squeeze it in. Here's the thing: it's actually my anniversary weekend. So happy anniversary to my wife. Early anniversary. We're a week early. Might have an episode still. I'm just trying to schedule everything out. And, of course, if you've been a longtime listener of Go Tell It to the Wall, not just Common Sense Sundays, but Go Tell It to the Wall, you know that our very own on-air producers, Bridget and Chris Hassong, it is also their anniversary weekend. We share the exact same anniversary. Yeah, it's one of those things. Not the same year. We didn't get married on the same day, but we share the same date. So happy anniversary to Bridget and Chris as well. Like I said, we might still have an actual episode. It's just going to depend on all the scheduling and whatnot. So just be aware of that. If you don't see one next weekend, it's semi-planned. We're just not definite yet on that as of today. So All right. Lots of stuff going on this week, and we're going to get into some digital trends right now. I've been losing my voice a little bit too. I might be. I don't think I'm actually coming down with a cold. I think the dryness of my HVAC system has just been wreaking havoc on my throat, kind of the past week or so. It just, if you're in Southern Cal, really, if you're in any location right now that's experiencing heat wave, and we're not even getting it as bad as a lot of other parts of the country, you're probably running a lot of air conditioning, and that's been my house. I got to keep a 4-year-old comfortable here, and by 4-year-old I mean myself, because I run very, very hot. No, I'm just kidding. My 4-year-old does come first, and fortunately for me, she runs very hot. So fortunately and unfortunately, because I also run hot, but it's extra cost in the good old air conditioning. I'm afraid to see that power bill. I really am. It was good that I was out of this house for 3 weeks, because that kind of saved a little bit, and that was a good part of the heat wave, and we didn't have to have the AC cranked on as much, so it was a little bit helpful as far as the bill goes. And of course, solar. I highly recommend solar. Look into it. I'm not going to recommend brands for you or anything, but if you're in an area that you can get solar, get solar. It's helpful regardless of what company you go with. All right, digital trends. That's right, digital trends. We got a few fun hashtags this week, and a couple, I don't want to call them serious hashtags because they're still fun hashtags to me, but they are more serious in nature, I guess. First one would be hashtag add a word ruin a movie. This was one of those, like, not Jimmy Kimmel, one of those other Jimmy Fallon does these every once in a while for the show, and I actually enjoyed this one. And I had seen someone post the hashtag add a word ruin a movie, Guardians of the Samsung Galaxy, and that one actually really made me laugh. Now, Samsung Galaxy products, I have a Galaxy tablet, actually. So I'm aware of the Galaxy products, but why this really made me laugh is if you've been a listener of Go Tell to the Wall previously, when I've spoken about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which was basically a commercial anyway for Baby Groot, Disney consumer products. So I found it extra funny that I wouldn't be shocked if Disney somehow pulled in some Samsung branding just because it fits well with the title. Wouldn't be shocked at all, because that's what we do, and really around the world, but especially in this country. Market the hell out of everything. Can you sell it? Yep, absolutely sell it. And I'm guilty of that myself, having worked in ad sales and marketing for a couple of large studios. But of course, check out that hashtag if you're looking for some entertainment. Also, hashtag things you hated as a kid. I could list things that I hated as a kid. I was sometimes a curmudgeonly little kid running around and, just kind of, I don't want to say railing against society at that time, railing against adults at that time, I guess. And this, of course, this one came up is the scene in Neverending Story. This movie's so old it can't be spoilers anyway, where Artax, the horse, we lose Artax. Still hurts me. I hated it as a kid. Still hate it today. It is not fun. And even today, we know that the horse comes back. Still too sad for me. Still too sad. So, of course, people were posting about that. Now, for me, another one was running the mile in PE as a kid. I hated it as a kid. Absolutely hated it throughout elementary and middle school. Like, I very much remember going out to PE when it would be like mile day and the PE teacher's like, oh, we're going to run a mile. And I was like, oh, God. And it just felt like such a slog. Now then, of course, I go on to high school and become an elite track athlete, a elite high school track athlete, actually running the 1600, which is essentially the mile when it comes to track competition here in the U.S., because we do everything in feet and yards except for when it comes to track events, because that's all got to be done in meters. So it's at 1600 meters, not quite a mile, but that's essentially running a mile when you're talking about high school track competition. All right, hashtag Karen Boebert. Oh, of course. You know why this one's trending. Now, apparently there was one of these rallies going on. I never pay close enough attention to these things because it just gives me a headache. So apparently there was a rally going on, and we had that Lauren Boebert out there spouting things off. And, of course, the people ran with this. And I think it's trending right now, but this could probably be accurate at any time. And I got to say, I'm so sick of shock value politicians, and that's all she is, shock value politician. completely unqualified to do what she's doing, and she's qualified to do what she's doing. She's unqualified for what she should be doing. However, people seem to enjoy it, and they let her speak at rallies and stuff, and therefore we get hashtag Karen Boebert trending on the Twitter platforms. So check that one out if you want to have a headache. I did not go too far down that hole because it just gives me a headache, and I weep for the state of politics in this country. All right, one more before we move on. Hashtag tax the rich. That's right, hashtag tax the rich. You know where this one's coming from. Richard Branson went to space today. Space. Like, not the moon or anything. Not like Star Wars. Just flies up into space. This is the thing we do. And all the billionaires they're like, we're going to space. We're going to space. You know, fuck that world hunger stuff. We're going to spend our money going to space and arguing about it and racing each other. It's like, Jesus Christ. That's the thing with I'm not even 40 yet. I can remember this all throughout my life, billionaires just competing with each other. And it's like, oh, giant mansions. Remember the lifestyles of the rich and famous with Robin Leach? Giant mansions, and then giant yachts and giant whatever else. We're gonna buy islands. Speaking of Richard Branson, now we buy islands, and then they start running out of things. So now they're just spending all their money to go to space, while of course people around the world are starving. Not even, and just. Like, look at Bezos. Even just take care of the U.S. We don't need to spend a bunch of money going to space. It's just they live in a different world. Rich people live in a completely different world than the rest of us, and it's quite amazing to look at. Because some people are like, I'm having trouble paying my electric bill. Like, I got to get out from under these student loans that I was told as a teenager to take out because you had to graduate college. And then we have a whole nother tier of people that are like, I'm building rockets and going to space. Common sense, fuck space. We don't, if there's a good reason to go there, Mars, all that stuff I can appreciate. But billionaires just thinking they're cool by building rockets, and that's the dumbest thing ever. Not the dumbest thing ever. It's one of the dumbest things ever. And that's why we have hashtag tax the rich. Maybe just a fraction of that money could go to public organizations that actually help people that are in need, not rich people that just want to go to space because it's fun. All right, COVID updates. Feeling a little bit off this week. I think I sound a little bit off. Just too much going on, I'm telling you. And I was late getting in the studio. I'm watching soccer. Nothing against soccer. It's just, what am I doing? It's not something I usually watch. And no offense to people that enjoy watching it. It's obviously around the world, so many fans, but soccer getting me into the studio late. But before we get there, some COVID updates. I'm ready to stop with this topic. I really am. I keep feeling like we're getting close to getting rid of this topic, the COVID updates, but then more stuff just happens, and like Delta variants, and we're going to get to the Zeta variant here, and then they're going to have to start over again, and I don't even know what happens at that point, but we're just running down the list with the Delta variant here. But there's still new stuff coming out. And in fact, the mask mandate is going back and forth yet again now. The CDC, Center for Disease Control here in the United States, came out and said that vaccinated kids and teachers going back to in-person learning don't actually have to wear a mask. So, of course, we've heard this. People vaccinated, you can be inside without a mask. Now, with the variants going out in California, they've said if you're going to be indoors, even if you're vaccinated, have a mask on. Back and forth, back and forth. Here's the thing that's killing me with this, and fortunately, this is part of the reason I love California, is you can talk all the bad you want about it. All the bad. We've done our best to mitigate numbers, to keep those numbers low, and immediately they came out and said, no, schools in California, they're still going to be wearing masks for indoor learning. Makes sense. Here's the other thing that is the kicker for me, and I've been saying this for quite a while with all this loosening of restrictions, is the children. Think about this. School-age children, you start going to like traditional kindergarten, not counting preschool. Traditional kindergarten, you go there when you're 5 or 6, 5 or 6. You graduate high school, so putting college aside, of course, at 17 or 18. Okay? Now let's think about the age for the vaccines. The age for the vaccines is 12 and up. 12 and up. So we're literally talking about we're only talking about half of students in schools in this country that are actually vaccinated. And those are just the ones that we are being honest and they've actually gotten vaccinated, let alone people forging cards and doing everything else. Half of students, kids under 12, aren't even vaccinated yet unless they're in like the study that they're doing right now. But the vaccine isn't widely available for kids under 12. So this makes no sense to me. I understand it is difficult for kids to wear masks, especially younger kids. But here's what it is. It's high school kids right now that we'd be looking at able to not wear masks. They're old enough to just deal with it. The younger kids are going to have to wear masks anyway. This back and forth on the mask mandates is just utterly ridiculous, and I'm really getting over it. I'm really getting over it. And I'm vaccinated. I'm still wearing my mask if I'm inside and I'm around people. Even if I go into a room and everyone says they're vaccinated, I don't care. Unless I know them all personally, I'm wearing a mask. I don't trust everyone. You can't trust anyone when it comes to this stuff. You just can't. We're getting some news on booster shots, too. And that news is we have no news yet. Keep hearing about there's going to be a booster shot, similar to how we get a flu shot every year, at least for a little while. But so far, we don't have enough evidence, according to Dr. Fauci, as far as if we're going to have to get a booster shot. Now, if I was a betting man, I'd say we're all getting some booster shots here. Probably come around flu shot time. Going to be time for a little booster shot, but we'll see what happens on that. And of course, we're still seeing a rise in new cases in certain parts of the country, really around the world. It's becoming an issue. Tokyo, or I believe all of Japan, we're going to get into some of that when it has gone into a full state of emergency because of their uptick in cases. So now we're also still seeing something I mentioned a couple weeks ago. Most new cases are among the people who are not vaccinated. I don't have the exact percentage in front of me, but it was something like 99.7% of new COVID cases are unvaccinated people. Now, again, I'm not sure if that's people who are eligible. So if that's people who are eligible, you're talking about that 0.3% or whatever. It's probably kids that are catching it because they can't get vaccinated yet. Again, don't quote me on those exact numbers, but that is a fact. What we're seeing is mostly unvaccinated people who are getting it. And of course, we've known some vaccinated people have also caught it again. I actually know people personally that have had it multiple times, not since the vaccine, but before the vaccine, have had it multiple times. It's crazy. It's just not worth. It's not worth getting it and dealing with it. Personally, I can wear a mask. I have a 4-year-old. My 4-year-old wears a mask just fine, just fine. And she doesn't make a huge deal about it. She wears a mask and calls it a day. You know, she's got a mask on. Get them comfortable masks, fun masks with a nice design, and you're good to go. I get so many compliments on a lot of my masks because I have masks from like all my favorite bands. Of course, my nice Zombie Teeth mask, which has been featured on the podcast. Go Tell Us to the Wall masks. Like, I've got them all. May as well use them. And of course, I want to use them anyway just to be safe because I don't trust anybody. And new info comes out almost daily here. And I'm telling you, wait for the next variant, and then the next variant, and then the next variant. The only way we're getting through it is if everyone gets out there and gets vaccinated and we finally hit herd immunity, then we can finally start beating this. But who knows when the hell that's going to happen. And of course, this is a tax on a lot of people's mental health, myself included. So we're going to talk a little bit of mental health. Socializing. I actually did some socializing last weekend, all with fully vaccinated people, still wearing masks a lot of times in outdoor settings, nothing indoors. I'm doing nothing indoors. Unless it's me and my family, nothing indoors. But did some socializing. And holy shit, is it exhausting. It was quite taxing on my mental health, just overall. And these are people that I know very well. I wasn't hanging out with random people. These are all people I know really well, but it was still extremely taxing on my mental health, which is an important thing to remember. Because slowly coming back can be very overwhelming. Now, of course, I have what some would call crippling social anxiety, as strange as that sounds, because most people that just listen to me on the podcast are like, no, that doesn't. No, it does. It's just, that's why I yell at a wall. I don't yell at other people in here. I yell at a wall because I have crippling social anxiety. The wall can't yell back at me most times. If I've had a few too many, back when we'd have the Thursday night episodes. If I had a few too many beers, then maybe it was. No, it was never actually talking back to me. But you understand where I'm going here. Go at your own pace. Don't let circumstances force you into being uncomfortable, or just taxing yourself too much emotionally. And especially keeping in mind that it can catch up with you after the fact. You might kind of get that adrenaline rush because you haven't socialized in a long time, but then once it's over, you're going to crash. That was me a lot last weekend. I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to lay down for a while. Because it catches up with you. So move at your own pace and let other people move at their own pace. Don't put that pressure on to anybody else. Regardless of how you feel. Maybe you're like, no, this is all fake and whatever else. Even if you think that, which you're probably not listening to this podcast, but even if you think the whole thing is a scam and not even real, just respect others. Respect the circumstances and respect others, and don't try to put pressure on people to be uncomfortable. This goes for anything in life, but especially right now, as we are moving back into more socializing and a more normal day-to-day life, compared to when we're at full lockdown here. Keep that in mind. Not everyone's on the same page or the same pace when it comes to these things. And of course, trust is going to, it is for me, I know it's going to be that way for many others. Trust is going to be an issue because you don't know who's actually vaccinated. I know a lot of people hate it, but I've been happy to see that a lot of shows that I've gotten tickets for are requiring either proof of vaccination or proof of a negative COVID test. In fact, I saw this absolutely come up recently for the Hell Omega Tour. Specifically, I don't know if they're going to do it for everybody attending. And unfortunately, those are outdoor shows, so it helps a little bit. But for the VIP packages where people are actually going backstage, they're requiring people to be either vaccinated or have a negative COVID test. Keeping people safe. But of course, trust is going to be an issue. Because you don't know who is vaxxed, or even who's, like, people could be walking around not vaxxed and sick, and they don't even realize it. I'm just not going to trust anybody. There's very few people I trust that I'm going to trust when it comes to this. People I know very well, yes, that I know have literally gotten the vaccine, but if I'm out in public, I don't know who the hell's lying to me. I can't take anyone's word for it. You can't. So many people are out there lying about it. Haven't believed in the thing to begin with. So that's where we are on that. And don't let it destroy your mental health. Take care of yourselves, as always. That should be your number one priority when it comes to comfort level and moving back into what we would call normal day-to-day life, I guess. All right, parenting. Oh, man. So last we talked was 4th of July, but it was, of course, early in the day on the 4th of July. So I can now confirm that my 4-year-old still, in fact, hates fireworks. Does not like them. I, in fact, still hate fireworks. It was a long night on the 4th. Now, of course, my kid is sleeping in our bedroom because there's explosions going off all around my house. Ridiculous. And I'm going to talk more about that in Common Sense because there was a couple stories that came out, and it's kind of ridiculous to think that we still continue to do this. But of course, like I said, I can confirm my 4-year-old still does not like fireworks. And the reason I've been a little bit slammed this week and failed to get the new logo actually up and posted was I've been dealing with putting up a new pool for my 4-year-old. Speaking of heat waves and everything else, one of these above ground, pools that you put in, but it's got the filter and everything, and so I haven't even actually gotten the pool up. I'm still waiting for the last of the parts that go with the it's a whole thing. Real headache this week. I mean, it's fine, but it's just been like I couldn't just get all this stuff at once. You're sending me, okay, I guess it's coming in pieces. And of course clearing out an area which we're fortunate enough that we have I don't want to say a large property, but for our neighborhood, a very large property, because we live in an urban area of Los Angeles. We're very close to downtown. We're not sitting on acres here. Nobody in the neighborhood really is. Some houses are bigger than others, but nobody's sitting on like an acre or 2 acres or anything like that. But still had to figure out the good space for it and everything else. And so I've been vigorously clearing things out and reorganizing my back deck and my back patio and power washing. God, power washer is something I knew for years that I wanted. Finally got my hands on one. Not even a really super nice one. Just finally got my hands on one, and oh, is it a life changer. You take that thing out on some tile or some concrete, and you just see the dirt just spray away. It's fantastic. But I will tell you, probably going to be in that pool daily with my 4-year-old. She is a water baby, and especially with the heat, it's going to be a great thing. So, and something to keep the kid occupied, which is interesting too, because I know it costs a lot of money to put in like a below-ground pool, but you can pick up these above-ground pools with a filter and everything for pretty cheap. If you've been reluctant to do so, check it out. You can get yourself like a 10, 12-foot pool with a pump and all this other stuff for very reasonable price. And keeping in mind that, I'm saying this under parenting for kids, of course, but keeping in mind that you can go in there too. That's what I've got in my mind. Like, oh, I can sit in that pool as well. So we had one of those little frame pools, like a 4x4 one. It's like, yeah, I can sit in there, but then my kid can barely fit in there. So it's a little bit different, But I'm looking forward to that. Going up this week. Still going to try and get that logo out, but the preparation to put the pool up. Everything's got to be perfectly clean and got to have space for it and measure. It's a headache, but going to be well worth it. And toys. Remember, I gave the advice about the surprise box. And it's funny because my wife said this came up in one of her mom groups the other day where someone was saying, I'm looking for a bunch of little toys to, use for a road trip. And it's like, oh my gosh, we have all the little toys. All of them. Problem is, my kid remembers everything. I've tried to get rid of things that she hasn't played with in months, and it's like, just in her head right away, she goes, oh, where's that thing I haven't seen in 6 months? I need it right now. It's like, I just put it in the garage yesterday because you haven't touched it for 6 months. Luckily, I didn't give it away, but it's impossible to get rid of anything. And then it's ridiculous too, because she'll have, like I've told the story before, nice Barbie dream house, and she's playing with rocks from outside. So it's not only these little toys that she ends up getting from other people, from us, wherever, McDonald's, even the silly McDonald's toys. Can't get rid of them. Then she goes outside to play for a little while, and she brings in like a pile of rocks. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Just never ending. It's never ending. My entire house is toys. There's toys in this studio. They're just not on camera. That's what happens. My daughter comes in here and plays, and I got to shift everything off to the side. And then I got to keep my toys away from her. As you can see, I have my own toys in here. You can call them, some would call them collectibles, but they are toys. They are, in fact, toys. I just collect some of them. So I got to keep those out of her hands quite often. There's a few she gets at. I've got a Red Sox Mr. Potato Head back here on the shelf, and she's always playing with that one. I let her get away with that one. But some of the signed stuff and, harder to find stuff, like, no. That's going to stay right there. Unfortunately, she has a couple of her own Funko Pops now, which we got from the surprise box, secondhand. Never getting rid of those things, because she sees the Funko Pops in the studio, and then when she got her own, she's like, oh, she knew right away, it's a Funko. Like, and I'm not even huge on the Funko Pops, but she had to have her own, and now she's got her own, so it keeps her from trying to grab all mine, although most of mine are on a higher shelf, so she has trouble grabbing them. All right, let's talk a little bit of common sense. Oh boy, Trevor Bauer, pitcher for the Dodgers. I was never a fan of this guy to begin with. But of course, I'm a bit of a Dodgers fan. Lived in Los Angeles for 20 years and in Southern California for much longer than that. So, I root for the Dodgers. Finally got my Dodgers hat a few weeks ago. They went on a 9-game winning streak right after I ordered my hat. Then they lost a few games, but that's not the important part here. The important part is Trevor Bauer was accused of some stuff, and I don't want to get into details of it. I would say, if you're interested in the details on it, just do a little, just Google. Check out the news pieces and stuff. And as much as I didn't like him, when this first broke, I was like, okay, let's do this thing where we give the benefit of the doubt and stuff. And then some more news came out. And again, if you want to check it out, look into it yourself. Now we absolutely know the guy's got to go. Unfortunately, the Dodgers are definitely distancing themselves from him because some of the initial accusations were like, well, let's see. And then as details came out, it was like, well, no, we're good. We see now. And, I mean, you still have to have due process, but no. Well, I don't want this guy anywhere near my team. So he's got to go. And like I said, I don't want to get into it. There's just no excuses. There's no excuses for what's coming out regarding Trevor Bauer, which I'm going to go ahead and assume former pitcher for the Dodgers. Right now he's on like administrative leave or whatever. Probably not going to pitch for the Dodgers again. Not going to happen. They stopped selling his merch in the Dodgers store. So I have a feeling he's about done there. Fireworks, fireworks, fireworks. Yet another year, and I can confirm that fireworks is still not fun. Giant explosions in the sky. Now, I know I talked about this last week, but as I came home from a little bit of a barbecue, some friends that live very close by, close friends of ours. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to sit here in the back. It's right at dusk, it's not quite dark, but right as the sun's going down. And immediately we go pull down my alley because I have a driveway on the back of the house. So you go down an alley, front of the house is on the street and the back of the house is on the alley. And immediately we turn down and I can see somebody's out there lighting off fireworks, like a few houses down from me, just a few houses down. And I'm not talking like sparklers. We're not talking the little stuff that, you can buy at a grocery store. We're talking the big mortar style fireworks that shoot up everywhere. And it was extra ridiculous sitting on my deck and I'm just waiting because I'll see them shoot off, and I'm literally looking up to my bedroom as my daughter is going from the window to like the bed to keeping an eye on everything and freaking out with each huge boom. And, my wife's in there with her. And then you can hear the stuff hitting the roof over my deck. You hear boom, and then a couple seconds later, like stuff from the fireworks. And sure enough, the next day, I'm finding pieces, like little round pieces, like that big, like that thick, essentially rock, or what I assume is just goes in there to pack it for the gunpowder, finding these around my yard. And both times, I found two big ones. Found little, like, you can find little stuff around. I found two big ones, and I'm thinking, thank God I was sitting under the roof of the deck. One of them was right by the deck. I think it bounced off of the roof and landed nearby. It's like, that probably would not have felt good if it just hit me directly on the head. But of course, everyone's got to continue with the stupid fireworks. And we saw there's an NHL goalie, young guy, 24 years old. I'm not going to even give his name out, but 24 years old, young goalie in the NHL, National Hockey League, actually passed away on the 4th of July from a firework. Now, originally it came out that there was a firework accident and he slipped and fell as he was running from the firework. We find out the next day that he actually took one of those crazy mortar fireworks to the chest. Killed him. The mortar tipped, fired toward people, hit him directly in the chest, killed him. Dead. It's all fun and fucking games until someone dies. And that's what you're doing. You're playing with explosives. Unnecessary explosives. Find another way to compensate. And just stop it. I'm so done with the fucking fireworks. I really am. I'm so done with them. You know what else I'm done with after I talk about this particular topic? Because I can't believe I'm doing this right now. I'm going to talk about Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. Jesus Christ. This is what some idiots out there bring me to in common sense, because I've got to bring some common sense to this. Apparently Megan Fox is trending right now. She's catching some flack over the age difference between her and Machine Gun Kelly. If you're not familiar with Machine Gun Kelly, it doesn't matter. Don't go look him up. Don't dignify this failed rapper who decided to do pop punk just because he's working with Travis Barker. You don't need to do that. The important thing here is Megan Fox, who's an actress, is getting flack over the age difference because she's older than Machine Gun Kelly. She's 35, he's 31. 4-year age difference. 4 years. 4-year age difference. Now, if the genders were reversed, would this be a problem? No. If the genders were reversed and the male was 10, 12 years older, no. We're so used to seeing it. But here we have a female who's 4 years older than the person she's dating, and she is getting flack for the age difference. 4 years. 4 years. So I'm going to take this moment to remind everyone, or let you know if you're not familiar with it. Amy Interrupter, the lead singer of the Interrupters. She's married to Kevin Bavona, who is the guitarist for the Interrupters. They've been married for many years. Amy is 4 years older than Kevin Bavona. So again, I hate that I'm talking about this, but all the hypocrisy. And on top of that, for those of you that don't know me personally, my wife is actually older than me. So technically my wife should be catching flack just as much as Megan Fox is. But here's the world we live in with the hypocrisy of, because a woman is a little bit older, She can't date a slightly younger. And we're not talking about like 20 years. We're not. And in fact, I don't follow the Jonas Brothers much anymore, but I believe Nick Jonas's wife is more than 4 years older than him. Why isn't she catching flack? So that's hopefully the last time I'm going to talk about Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly on this podcast. But I have to call out the hypocrisy because this is Common Sense Sundays. And common sense says that she shouldn't be catching any kind of flack for this. You know, give her a hard time about her terrible acting or the fact that she's dating a failed rapper. That's all fine. But the age difference thing? Come on now. Come on now. Common sense. I found this one interesting, too. The California exodus that's been such a popular thing over the past, 2 years. Everyone's leaving California. They're going to Texas and Arizona. And I know people that have. Personally, I know people that have. But there's a study that came out, and I believe this must be regarding 2020. I don't know if it's 2021 numbers yet. But, it was a big deal in 2020. Joe Rogan, he left California, and now he went to Austin because he didn't like California anymore. There actually hasn't been any uptick in the amount of people leaving California. It's about the same that it has been for the past 5 to 10 years or whatever. It just might have seemed like it because some loud people like Joe Rogan left California. So it did get a little quieter here in California. I can tell you that personally, just in general. Once Joe Rogan left, it was like, it's a little more peaceful here. But it's basically a myth. It's getting overblown. And honestly, if you want to leave, leave. Don't let the door hit you. California is not for everybody. Texas isn't for everybody. Arizona is not for everybody. Illinois is not for everybody. New York's not for everybody. I couldn't live in New York. Jesus. And nothing against New York. I couldn't do it. Every state is not for everyone. But to overblow these things and say, California sucks so much that everyone's leaving. Why? Because loudmouth Joe Rogan left? Good riddance, Joe Rogan. Stay in Texas. That's probably a good place for you. Fucking Joe Rogan. Everyone likes to quote Joe Rogan to me. They're like, did you hear the latest episode? I'm like, no. Why would I do that? I prefer yelling at a wall, not listening to a guy that should be yelling at nothing but a wall. All right. I want to talk about this really quickly because it is a horrible story. And I've had it sitting in the queue for a couple weeks here, or at least a week and a half, whatever, since that building collapse in Miami where the building suddenly collapsed and they had a rescue effort. And unfortunately, many people have lost their lives and they're still looking for people. It's incredibly sad. It's horrible. And common sense says that we feel for all of these people, every single person, family of the people, whatever it is. And especially when they had to further demolish the building because of the hurricane weather coming through. But the reason I bring this up is I found it interesting, and this happened before the building collapsed, because the building collapsed after I got back into Southern California from my road trip. But multiple times in Florida, multiple times, and I'm not going to name anyone specifically, but multiple times this happened where a discussion had come up about a building or something nearby, or something that was being built, or something that had been built, and it was built incorrectly in Florida. Now, I'm not saying it's only Florida that this happens, but in my experience, having just been there, they don't use the most common sense when it comes to where they're built. Like, buildings are sinking. In fact, I mean, for confidentiality reasons, I can't speak to even how ridiculous of some of the stories I heard. Because I know some people that work in specific industries. I know them very well. And I have heard very specific stories about how stuff just isn't built correctly, isn't built on land that it's supposed to be built, like where it's supposed to be built. Buildings like just sinking into the ground. And we're like, yeah, it sinks a little bit every couple years. It's like, what? No, buildings aren't supposed to sink. But apparently that's something that happens in Florida. And I'm not saying this is happening constantly, but to me, it was just really wild. And every by like the third, fourth conversation, I was like, yeah, no, I'm hearing this now. But the first couple I was like, really? That seems crazy to me. But apparently it's fairly common. So if you have relatives that live in Florida, or you live in Florida yourself, check out the building inspection records for wherever you're living, because holy shit. More common than you would possibly think. I found this interesting too, and I'm probably going to touch more on this as I poll people going throughout, but I'm still on my, RV trip, and people I run into or I talk to on the phone or whatever, they always ask. And if something interesting has come of this, because I was at a small barbecue, and that it became really obvious there. I knew this even while we were traveling. RV life is very, I don't know if love-hate is the right word, but some people are very, very, very excited about the prospect of driving an RV. And the other people, not even, it's been about a half and half. Half of people, really, they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much fun. I would love to do that. And the other half are like, I would never do that ever. There's really no, in between that I have found. And it's funny, now that I've talked to enough people after having done it, I'm always kind of wait for, they're like, oh, how was it? And I'm like, it was great. I would do it again in a second. Then I kind of wait all right, are you going to be like, yeah, it sounds great? Or are you just going to be like, man, you're nuts? Those are the two responses that I get. So it's clearly not for everybody, but it's interesting, the love. There's nobody in the middle that's like, oh, yeah, no, maybe. It's like no or yes. So that's apparently RV life. So if you are somebody that's actually in the middle on that, let me know. And again, I will tell you, I would do it again in a second. I would go on it. I would get in an RV right now, and I would drive for another 2 weeks. I would do it right now. It's so much damn fun. But apparently there's a lot of hatred, and not hatred toward people going in RVs. Hatred toward the prospect of themselves doing it. Not like a bias against RV people. More of a that's crazy. I would never, ever, 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 ever do a road trip like that. Or the other side where I want to do that right now. Found that interesting. All right, entertainment news. Euro Cup final. I found myself watching soccer or football. I don't mean that panderingly. I just genuinely, we have a lot of fans across the pond that don't call it soccer. But I'm watching soccer because it's the Euro Cup. For those of you not familiar, it's like the European Championship. It's countries playing, not professional teams. They're countries. So England was playing Italy in the Euro Cup final. I thought I was going to get the damn thing done before I came into the studio. Then it goes into extra time, and then more extra time, and then penalty kicks. I'm just like, and I'm sitting on, and I'm like, well, I'm at a point now where I got to see who wins this damn thing. So congratulations to Italy. I don't know how many Italian fans we have that listen to the podcast. Apologies, because we do have a lot of English fans that listen to the podcast, and I have a lot of English friends who either have association or literally still live there, and a lot of that is because of the music scene. And I'm obviously wearing one of my Barstool Preachers shirts today. I guess in honor of England. It wasn't really done on purpose. It was just one that I wore today specifically. But there's a band from England that is one of my absolute favorites. And I found that a lot of England fans. So apologies to all of you out there for that loss. But I have confirmed I will watch international big stuff, but just soccer's just not for me. It's just not. Now, of course, I watch baseball, and baseball's not for everybody. So I wouldn't say, how can you watch that? Soccer. I know so many people are like, that's so boring, and it's like, who cares? It's just not for me. I wouldn't criticize someone for watching it. The excitement in that stadium was palpable. It was kind of crazy to watch. You see the crazy fandomness. Fandomness? I'll have to look up if that's even a word. The crazy fandomness of all the fans in the stands, and then the utter disappointment when Italy won. You could see the utter disappointment because it was actually in England, so I'm sure there's a lot more English fans than there were Italian fans. And it's one of those crazy things. It comes down to penalty kick, and someone misses a penalty kick, and that's it. Like, whoop, all right, there we go. 2 hours of running around on a field, and it comes down to 5 dudes and kicking a ball and 2 goalies trying to stop a ball. It's really wild. But of course, that delayed me getting into the studio today. We had some news out of the Utah National Parks, and I know this is still going on. The Utah National Parks have had to start closing their doors. Closing their gates, I guess. Closing their doors. I mean, maybe they have doors, but closing their gates. Closing off to additional people coming in. Really at 9 a.m. over the past few weeks because they are just getting inundated with people wanting to go to the national parks. Now, if you're familiar with, I've never been to any of them, but I have friends that have. If you're familiar with Utah, they do have some gorgeous national parks there. But I would say right now is probably not the time to go to those national parks because there's a good chance you don't actually get in. That being said, I was at White Sands National Park a couple weeks ago, and it was not very crowded at all. Just drove straight in. So if you want to go hit a national park, go check out White Sands as opposed to Arches, and there's a couple of them in Utah, and it's all the ones in Utah have just been so crowded. They're closing the gates at like 9 8. They're like, nope, no more. We're at capacity at 9 8. It's like, holy shit. I'm drinking coffee still at 9 a.m. You know, so avoid that, and probably avoid this national park as well. At least part of it, and that would be Death Valley. Death Valley hit a tied a heat record, highest recorded heat record. I don't know how they figure these things out. 130 degrees Fahrenheit. That's Fahrenheit. For the I can't do the Celsius conversion. I apologize. It's too ingrained in my head and my life, the Fahrenheit. So, but 130 degrees Fahrenheit. I can tell you, if you're not familiar with Fahrenheit, it's fucking hot. that's all it is. And you got to be careful in the heat. Just don't go to Death Valley when it's 130 degrees. Don't. I mean, shit. Arizona, when it was 98 degrees at midnight, I was like, this is crazy. What do you know? Because we'll get to 100 and change here on occasion, but then it cools down at night. It's not 100 degrees at midnight. Once the sun goes down, it starts to cool down at least a little bit. It'll stay warm, but 100 degrees, Jesus. And Death Valley's an area like that, so be careful out there in that heat. The Tokyo Olympics, I mentioned this briefly at the top of the episode. We have no local fans now. Japan is actually in gone back into a state of emergency. And originally they weren't letting any fans travel to the Olympics. And I believe I alluded to this within the past couple episodes. But now we officially know they're not even going to let local fans go to Olympic events for the Tokyo Olympics. So you're going to be looking at empty stadiums. I'm sure there'll be some people around because, you have staff for each of the national teams and coaches, whatever else. So it's not, there'll be, but you're not going to see a lot of people in the stands. You're not going to hear cheering. It's going to be fascinating to hear like a quiet Olympics. And also be fascinating to see if they pipe in sound, which is something they were doing for at least professional sports here in the U.S. During 2020 when they had no fans at all. They were piping in some crowd noise and everything else, or putting it out over the television broadcast. So I don't know if we're going to see that, but it'll be interesting to track the upticks on this as well, because a lot of people are traveling to Tokyo. Even though there's no fans that can travel, a lot of athletes are traveling, and I'm hoping everyone will be as safe as possible over there. And as you know from the past couple episodes, I'm kind of over the whole Olympics thing anyway. You can't wear this swim cap, and we're freaking out about this, and like calm yourselves. It's sports. It's not life and death. It's just sports. And it's sports that a lot of these athletes only get every 4 years. Yeah. Let them run. Let them play. And it's just, Olympics is becoming less and less fun for me. I'll probably still watch a track and field, but I'm a sucker for international track and field events, even local. I love track and field. It's my track background. I found that you probably have friends out there who played certain sports or whatever else, and they still have kind of an attachment to it later in their life. And for me, that's track. I don't watch, like, I enjoy watching baseball. I never played baseball, but I think my love of watching track and field on television competition is from doing it in high school. So I'm sure I'll be guilty of watching that at the very least. Laura Jane Grace. God, you gotta love Laura Jane Grace. She actually announced a concert. Somebody else is playing with her too, and I don't have that name right in front of me. Announced the concert. This concert is going to be at the Four Seasons Landscaping. That's right, that Four Seasons Landscaping. It's going to take place there on August 21st. And apparently this show sold out in under 17 minutes. So if you were lucky enough to get tickets, enjoy that show at Four Seasons Landscaping. This was obviously done on purpose and poking fun at a certain event that took place there back a few months ago, and is probably going to draw a much bigger crowd. I guarantee it is, because the thing sold out in 17 minutes. So good on you, Laura Jane Grace. Love seeing things like that. Love seeing things like this too. Bassists Against Racists. Their July shirt has dropped. It is available for pre-order. It is actually Eloise from the Linda Lindas. If you're not familiar with the Linda Lindas, we mentioned them previously on the podcast. This is the band of all young ladies who went viral playing their song in one of the Los Angeles public libraries. If you haven't seen that clip, go look it up, and you'll see why Eloise absolutely is a perfect match to be on the Bassist Against Racist July t-shirt release. And on top of that, it makes perfect sense, too, because the Linda Lindas soon after got signed to Fat Records, and Lynn from Bad Cop, Bad Cop is on Fat Records, so there's a lot of good association there. And as always, Paul Smith did fantastic work with the artwork, Paul Smith of Zombie Teeth Clothing, and now obviously the shirts aren't out yet, but I guarantee, because they are printed by Chaos Merch, Gabby will do a fantastic job with the printing. I've got 3 of them. They're all fantastic shirts. Probably going to wear, there's one of them hasn't been on an episode yet, so maybe that'll be next week, but printing, I assume, will be just as high quality, so you know you're getting great things from all parties involved on that, as well as supporting Black Lives Matter with all the profits from those shirts, as usual. All right, one more thing I want to leave with you, because I know we're talking shows, and I've been trying to interweave them here and let you know where you can find me around Southern California. One of the next shows I'll be coming, and this one, I really wish this was the first show I was going to coming out, not because I want to wait longer, but because the very first show that I had canceled because of COVID was taking place on Friday, March 13th, 2020. So for this show, I'm actually going to be heading out to Alex's Bar on Friday, August 13th. Bad Cop, and Venomous Pinks are playing at Alex's on August 13th, as mentioned. It's Friday the 13th, which is a little bit appropriate, and I am super, super excited to see both these bands. Big fan of both. And there's a couple more artists playing, and apologies to those bands. I was mainly motivated to see Bad Cop, and Venomous Pinks get back to doing their thing. So if you're free, I don't believe it is sold out yet. Alex's Bar down there in Long Beach. I will be there. I'll be there with my sis Laura. I know there are some fans of the podcast as well as friends of mine that will also be out there. So head on out there, check it out. If you see me there, I'm probably not going to be hugging a lot of people, but give me a little fist bump, and I will throw some stickers your way. In fact, I'm probably going to say I gave away a bunch of stickers on the road trip, so I'm probably going to have to pick up some more. But we'll be well prepared, definitely by August 13th. Maybe not by July 24th for Chaser, but definitely by August 13th, get some new stickers in. Maybe some new logos. Probably not. I'm not promising new logo stickers just yet. You're going to be getting the good old Go Tell to the Wall stickers there. But if you have none, you run into me at one of these shows, I will have stickers for you guaranteed, as long as I haven't already given them all out, which is highly unlikely. All right. On that note, that's going to do it for us. I'm going to go do some more prep work for my 4-year-old's pool here. Maybe during this week you can find me floating in the pool, especially if the heat keeps up like this. And don't forget, next weekend, possible scheduling conflict. We'll probably post about it on Facebook. I got to have priorities. It's my anniversary weekend. I got stuff to do. You know, I love yelling at a wall, but I love my wife much more. So gonna make sure I spend some time with my wife on our anniversary weekend, probably, and my daughter as well. She wasn't there, but she can still celebrate our anniversary. So look for updates on that. Of course, make sure you're following us on the social platforms, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Again, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Head over to YouTube, search Go Tell It to the Wall, subscribe to our channel. That's where you're going to find all of our great videos and our playlists. And, of course, my own personal Instagram, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. And, of course, Sean O'Rourke Live, which is our official website for everything that is Common Sense Sundays, Go Tell It to the Wall, Sean O'Rourke Live. And we'll give you links to all those things I just mentioned, as well as a link to our Patreon page and our merch page. Get yourself some Common Sense fashion items out there, or Common Sense wine glasses, coffee mugs. There's all kinds of stuff up there, so pick up some of that great merch. All right, this has been episode 52 of Common Sense Sundays with Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, of course, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke. And until next time, Wall fans, Common Sensors, podcast consumers, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and no matter why you are doing it, always use common sense.